Here we are. We are live. Anybody? Oh, yes we do, except for me. Okay.
Feliz Navidad.
Oh, Feliz Navidad. Yes, Superman. All right, it's almost official. I don't know if Terry's in, but
You're a little early. You're 9 minutes early. That's.
I forgot my water, so don't go away. Drink water. All right, now it's official. I have water. Zen. I don't know what we're talking about today.
Do you ever know what you're talking about?
No, but we are talking about something. We'll talk about Christmas. Yes, happy almost Christmas. We still have waiting for Terry, so I won't have my drink yet. Lawnmower. Merry Christmas. When the weather turns into spring, I'm going to come visit.
He's going to visit all the Texas filming sites of 1967's Bonnie and Clyde.
I didn't know there was a lot, but
well, a lot of it did occur.
Okay. I should wait for Terry before I...
No, go ahead, because Terry will be here soon.
King Rod Baron from C-35A.
Main bearings seem to be unattainable at the moment. Boy, I tell you what, a good interchange is your best friend.
Okay, we're going to get started. We don't need... Yes, we do. See, I should wait just a little bit longer. But happy Friday. All right, I'm going to get started. At least get prepared to start. Today is, what are we talking about today? Whatever y'all want to talk about. I have nothing planned. Of course, I will go and talk about anything. But if y'all have any questions, let's get her done. I do not know. Is everybody ready for Christmas? Is that a good question?
Who's making tamales?
Who's making tamales?
That is a Texas, actually it's a Mexican tradition that is so important to all of us in this neck of the woods, especially for those of us who have a granddaughter who thinks that they are the world's most perfect food. And actually this year we're going to make venison tamales.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, we'll do that this weekend, won't we? Is it this weekend?
No, it's next weekend.
Next weekend we're doing tamales.
Next weekend. And while we're on the subject of next week, anybody who doesn't know, Danny and Faye are planning a winter solstice live stream. That will be Wednesday the 21st. The whole gang will be back together again at 5 p.m. So try to be there.
And there is a pachanga happening today, Terry. I waited. I didn't have any. Happy Friday. It's now official. Terry's in the room. Yes, we are having a live stream. The shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. on Wednesday. So this coming Wednesday, Faye will be in. We're gonna just do a holiday cheer live stream. So Wednesday at 5. Am I correct?
Yes, Wednesday at 5.
So Wednesday at 5, holiday live stream. So there we go. Terry's in. Terry, thank you so much for. I almost used it, but that's a lot of beer. Y'all drink a lot of beer in Germany. Check this out. I think we're gonna have to go to Germany for next year's official Oktoberfest. Now that's an Oktoberfest. So like I said, I almost used it, and I said "Oh, I'm gonna wait. But this is so cool. Thank you, Terry. From Germany, we also got some German chocolates, which are not here. They're at my coffee table at home. Little nutcracker thing, and we got some stories to tell about that. But we'll talk about that when we see you. Also, look at this cool chicken. So, and there's
That's a French hen.
it's a French hen.
It's the spirit of the season.
It's the spirit of the
12 days
season.
of Christmas.
So there we go. And it's fruitcakes. Yes, was it? Who was talking about fruitcake? Was it Lawnmower?
Lon was, yes.
Am I the only person that likes fruitcake? I'm older, and man, I like fruitcake. Now, my mom would make fruitcakes every Christmas, so homemade fruitcake is what. But I kind of like fruitcake. I mean, am I just a fruity, And I don't know if the younger people even know what fruitcake is, or have you ever had any? It's generally a joke to pass around the fruitcake. You give it to somebody one year, and the next year they keep giving it because it just goes on and on and on, and it does not go bad. Ask some people, and it started out bad. It just so. Do we have any fruitcake people here? I'm a fruitcake person, and I want to get the recipe from my mom, and it'd be cool to make some because our grandkids don't know what fruitcake is. I don't believe they do. So, all right. Like I said, we're going to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. Don't leave it up to me, or I'll find something to talk about. But you can ask questions. They can be machine shop questions. They can be engine questions. It can be how's the weather in Texas questions.
Bob Miller likes his fruitcake soaked in rum. I'm not a fruitcake aficionado, but it sounds like that might make it more fun to eat.
Oh, and then the little rum balls. I've been for years telling everybody I know who bakes, man, you want to get something for me, don't buy something, make some rum balls, little chocolate rum balls. And I have yet to have some chocolate rum balls. But I'm going to...
Oh, didn't Pat Kennedy make those?
Who?
Pat Kennedy. Didn't she used to bring us those back? Well,
No, Pat...
was well. Didn't he? She would bring us rum.
No, it was the cookies. The big tray. Remember the one that you break? So, but anyway...
holiday food.
He says he's on a butterscotch cake diet, or not even a diet. I can't read.
On that butterscotch cake bit. And
I
prefers to drink liquor rather than eat it. Just saying.
Okay, I don't drink liquor, so the rum balls are cool. And I say I don't drink liquor. If we were by a pool and we're having mojitos, I'm in. So it depends on the situation, but in fact, Terry, we still have the liquor collection that you gifted us with, and there's some quite nice liquors in there. So anyway, cheers.
That was his father-in-law's.
That was your father-in-law's, yes. Howdy, everybody. Hi, we're still trying to pick a subject. So the ones that are just coming in. Have anything you want to talk about, this is the time to suggest it. If not, then I'll just drink beer here and I'll talk to Terry. And RC, hi RC. So cheers. Yes. Cheers to some Christmas beer.
And I think that we generally have a fun time when we discuss some of our automotive projects. If anybody's got questions, this is a good time for it. Although
we have
I have to step away to answer.
We have a call in. Maybe we got a call in question.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Danny. How can we help you? gonna be a good question. It's gonna be a call-in question, and one of them is I don't know. I mean, I can't see the future, but are y'all doing a live stream right now? Am I bothering you? That's probably the question. All right. Yes, we're closed. Yes, we are. We are closed. The front door's closed. We get people that move the door and then they'll call shop mom. Hey, I see y'all in there. Anyway, so how's everybody's holiday season starting? Mine's already started. So, and I think this is the perfect time. I was gonna do a what? What was I gonna do? Um, a buddy of ours, a friend of ours, real close friend, passed away 2 days ago. So I actually had reached out and asked one of our mutual friends if they wanted to sit in and we could just tell Nelson stories. But it didn't work out. And I don't want to bore people, but Nelson Broyle passed away. Nelson Broyle, for all the OGs out there, you probably know exactly what song he wrote. Sweet City Woman. Do you remember Sweet City Woman? Does anybody remember Sweet City Woman? Our friend Nelson Broyle, he wrote that song. Back in the day, you didn't get paid money for writing. I remember him saying, he made $100 when he sold that song to the Stampede, I believe it was, who actually did Sweet City Woman. He got paid $100, and he thought, man, $100 to write a song. It was just, you didn't get paid to write a song back then. So he didn't. That was it. He sold it to the Stampede. Nelson Broyle has played with everybody. Willie Nelson played with everybody, and he's written tons of songs. Anyway, Nelson has passed. So last night we were with Liz. It's Liz and Nelson. Spent some good time with the memories of Nelson. I don't have any bad memories of Nelson. When I think of Nelson already, I just always have a funny. If anybody watched some of my videos, look, there's Nelson chiming in right now as we speak, and so now Nelson got me all. What are you doing, Nelson? So. When I think of Nelson, it's just he was just such a funny guy. There you go. I have a video out, and I actually made a little video. May have been a short. I don't remember where I dropped it, Instagram or where. And it's Shingle Doesn't Care. So I'm gonna tell my Nelson story, and then I don't want to bore y'all with my Nelson story. But Nelson was quite an artist, man. He could play acoustic and write songs in his mind just so quickly. But anyway, so. Nelson was really kind of quiet. He didn't, I don't say he didn't like people because he loved people, but he didn't really. He's not one of those people that just in a crowd is going to start shaking everybody's hand and he doesn't like crowds. Nelson doesn't like crowds. So, but yet we were at Shade Tree and he's playing on stage and I said, a musician who doesn't like crowds. I mean, you don't like people because, man, they want to come up to you and shake hands, sign autographs, all this stuff while, afterwards. And you have to do that. Not only that, whenever he was with Liz, Liz is from Blanco, Texas, and part of the chamber and part of she owns a business there. So they had a lot of functions to go to. And Nelson just really doesn't, but he would go. So people would always come up, hi, and talking and everything else. In his mind, he kind of was like, man, you can't tell somebody, I don't know what you're saying. I don't even know who you are, but you got to be polite. You got to be politically correct or whatever. But he goes, and in my mind, I'm looking at him and it's like, you can't see this? I don't know who you are. Who are you? What are you talking about? You can't do that. So he came up with, I can't tell you, effing shut up. So what he said is, Shingles doesn't care. And he started doing that way early on, and that was his way of saying, I don't care what you're saying, or I don't even know who you are, what are you talking about, whatever. He was being polite. I mean, really, he does care, but but it's really is now you have so now you may use this. So if you ever hear me tell you, you know, shingles doesn't care, I'm I'm getting my inner Nelson. We laugh so hard because that's something that you can say in public, and there's someone, and you can kind of defuse the situation by just stopping. You know, shingles doesn't care, and but like I said, in his mind, he's really saying, I don't give a, you know. So he was just so funny. We went on for hours with that one, and I used it in a video, and I have people contacting me about, oh, damn, I'm sorry, you know, shingle. Oh, I'm sorry, you have, you know, you got shingles. I never said I had shingles. I was using that example on something that came up, and I just said, you know, shingles doesn't care because my inner Nelson's coming out, and maybe from now on, y'all will use that. Like I said, Nelson Brawl, you can look him up. Tons of great music. So, um,
For anybody who wants to know,
mhm,
if you go to YouTube on a
mhm.
search, there is a video. It's called In Every Life, but you have to put Blanco Pickers behind that and listen to Nelson sing. It's not the best compilation, but you certainly get a sense of who he was, and he will be sorely missed. I think one of the things that we want to remember is that, as we discussed not too long ago, we all have an expiration date, and some of us are made aware that ours is coming up. Nelson was made aware, and we did take the time to laugh together and enjoy each other's company. His birthday was this past Saturday.
Yes.
You got to meet his hospice nurse for the first time on Saturday, and then he's passed. But he was a great guy, and this is not going to be a downer thing because we're going to switch to automotive topics.
Yes, we're gonna switch on for something, and it's not a downer thing. It's really. If anybody was blessed to know Nelson, you know that was not Nelson. He was so upbeat, so funny, so it's a celebration of Nelson. There, yes, and I saw the comments, condolences. Thank you so much. I mean, we went to with yesterday evening to Liz's. We had such a good time. We had some wine. We had a little more wine. And all the stories are all just good stories. Just, you know, and don't let the time pass that you don't tell somebody you love them while you have them. Don't go afterwards. And, you know, if you didn't take the time to visit them when they were sick, and you're gonna take the time to visit them, you know, at the funeral home. No, the funeral home, visit them while they're sick, or visit them more often. So in other words, this isn't a bummer time. I'm sorry, because it's not. It's a joyful time. He keeps on knocking down the cards behind us. So that's just in jest, you know what I mean. But this isn't a bummer time. Well, he's these are great time, not great times because he's passed. Don't get me wrong. He's not in pain anymore because of the cancer, and he's just so joyful. So like I said, whenever I think of Nelson, it's not anything. I can't even recall a bad instance of you know. He's always saw the good in people. So. I learned that from Nelson. Always see the good in people. So anyway, let's move on to something automotive. If you want to talk automotive, if you want to talk engine stuff.
There was a question earlier about how is the Horizon coming?
The Horizon. All right. So the Plymouth is doing good. We finished everything up. The last videos, if you watch the YouTube videos, either on my channel or Faye's channel, we restored the broken parts. There were some things that were broken in shipment when it was stored before we got it. We cleaned the carburetor up. We fixed the broken parts on the carburetor. They're on a video, and did as much of the prep work to get it ready to go back in the car. Then we actually took the engine home on Faye's crappy video. So not crappy video. It's not a crappy video. Crappy trailer video. And so it was her trailer's maiden voyage. It didn't even have wood yet, or it wasn't painted. It worked perfectly. Like I said, there's videos of mine and Faye's about it getting home. We unloaded it and it's ready, and we got everything prepped. What we don't have is Smokey had a bigger clutch in it. So I ordered a brand new clutch, because why not put a brand new clutch in it? It was pretty toasted. It was not down to the rivets, but it was pretty toasted. This clutch has seen better days. Could I put it back in just to drive it, and it's really a museum car. You're not going to drive it like, we're never going to tag it and drive it as a driver. So right now we're on the fence. It has a different clutch in it. It's a big padded clutch, not the thin clutch. I bought a brand new clutch for the car, and it's real thin. The turbo clutch, it's not. I thought, well, you know what? He is a turbo clutch, even though back then they didn't have the turbo model. It's not. It's not the same clutch. The turbo clutch takes a different flywheel, so that's not it. So stock clutch, turbo clutch. I've tried to. We called. There was a place in San Antonio that would reline the clutch, and Shop Mom called, and they no longer do that. So now it gets shipped out to a third party that does it, and I'm kind of leery of shipping out a historic clutch. To me, it's historic, and never getting it back. So if I can find somebody local to reline the clutch, I will do that. If not, we will put the brand new regular 2.2 clutch in it, because we're not going to drive it that much. I am going to do a 0 to 60, a quarter mile, and we're going to do a little bit of testing on it. But that's where we're at. The engine's ready. It's at home already in our home shop. The car's up on the lift. We have a brand new fuel tank for it. Even though we cleaned the whole fuel system the last time that we got it running, so that we could take it to New York for the auto show. We have a brand new tank, brand new sensor, and all that's going to get ripped out. I'm going to put a brand new. I'm not going to let that anything get into the hot vapor engine. So that's where it's at. It's up on the rack right now, and it's waiting for me to make a decision on the clutch. So there's the thing.
I already made a decision on the clutch, so I don't know why you're thinking about it.
So Shop Mom's already made a decision, and we kind of put the new clutch that we bought, even though it's not as wide as the one that he had made for it, and move on. Get it back in the car. Let's do our testing, and then the car will either, I think it belongs in the Peterson Museum or somewhere. So that's where it is. Maybe during the holiday season, the holidays when we're home, I might just get that engine back in the car. And Faye's been helping. She enjoys the historic value of this. And then it got real busy with All Grows Garage and Supras in Vegas and this, that, and it's been just crazy. So she's just about done with everything. That's why she'll be here on Wednesday. So maybe we'll talk about the car. What was fun?
I'm reading the questions. There are a couple.
Can I borrow your strategy?
Yeah. Austin with his, I got a question, can I borrow your straight edge?
That's funny.
That was really good. Okay, but Terry wants to know which offers better performance, naturally aspirated or direct fuel injection. Is it mostly an old school versus new school thing? And then Dean has a question. He's having a hard time speccing a head gasket, going to go from OE single layer graphite coated composite to getting a custom MLS gasket. Any tips or formulas to make sure I get the proper squish?
Yes, sure. So let's go back to Terry's. Naturally aspirated, and even direct injection is naturally aspirated. For those of you that don't know, naturally aspirated NA engine, what does that mean, naturally aspirated? It sucks its own air. Stop it, people. So naturally aspirated means is when the piston goes down, it creates vacuum in the combustion chamber, in the cylinder. Piston goes down, the intake valve opens, that vacuum pulls fuel in. We are naturally aspirated, unless we go scuba diving. So naturally aspirated, it sucks its own air. So direct injection is still naturally aspirated. You can get direct injection on a turbo car or a non-turbo car, but let's not confuse what naturally aspirated means. It's just that we're not injecting the fuel in the manifold up above in the throttle body. After they were injecting the fuel at the throttle body like a carburetor, then they went to port injection, and they started injecting it at the intake runners, and then they went even closer and they started injecting it into the cylinder head, and then they started injecting it into the combustion chamber. And the reason that direct injection is even around, in my humble opinion, is Smokey Unique found out way back in the day that air and fuel will revert back to their natural state. So a carburetor has a venturi, and all it is a choked off area in the airstream, and it's choked off. And when it gets choked off, the airspeed really gets up really fast right there. Just think of it as going down a river, and then the banks get in further, and boy, you just fly out of that chute. So it increases the airspeed right there at that spot. At that spot, we add fuel. If you add fuel right to that spot where it gets faster, that venturi will actually atomize fuel very well. In fact, Smokey said that there is no real better way to atomize fuel than a venturi, than a carburetor. Okay, the problem is that within a millisecond or two, it reverts back to its natural state. So we have air, we have fuel mixed, atomized perfectly, and within a millisecond or two, they start to separate, reverting back to its natural state. So what he found in his testing is that in the intake manifold, you can actually see little rivers, little streams where the fuel went in the intake port, and then it just ran down, and you have a liquid fuel going into the combustion chamber. One thing we know, you cannot burn fuel without oxygen. So you ever want to try this, get you a cap, fill it, take the cap off, put some gasoline in it, hydrocarbons, gas in there, put it, and then throw a match at it. The match is going to hit it and just going to turn off. It's a liquid with no oxygen. It ain't going to burn, and then it's just a liquid. Okay, now if you were to take this little bit of gas that's right here, hydrocarbon fuel, put it into an empty vessel, a gas tank, move it all around pretty quickly, it's going to just vaporize. You're not going to have any liquid in there anymore. You put a little bit in there, but you just start sloshing around, and you have a lot of oxygen with a little bit of gas. I would dare anybody to try this. Don't do it because you're going to blame me. If you were to get a match by the gas cap and get it close to the gas cap, you would have this big, huge explosion. This gas tank would just blow up. Another thing to see what we're talking about, and this is probably into the more of the, like the hot vapor, is vaporizing fuel. Everybody's, I shouldn't say everybody because I don't know everybody, but I'm going to assume that a lot of people start, because some people don't like to barbecue, so I'm assuming you know what that means. But you put your charcoal briquettes or wood or whatever you want in your fireplace, man gets and just covers it all up with some lighter fluid. We light it, and then we walk away. Go inside, grab a beer, do whatever. When we come back, the majority of the time, it died. Okay, you see it there just, well, man, I'm gonna get more. I'm gonna just put more on it, and it may explode in your face, may not. But we put some more on it. The charcoals that had started to get going a little bit, I just put them out with this, okay, lighter fluid. But boy, you just see this smoke, white smoke just come out of there. And you get a match, you better stand back, and you throw it at your barbecue pit. Whoom! That barbecue pit just goes crazy. Why? Because we vaporized the fuel. Okay, we added a lot of oxygen to a little bit of fuel. The more oxygen you can add to it, you got a bomb going on. So Smokey figured out that we need it in a vapor state. We need it atomized really well for full combustion. But it reverts back to its natural state within milliseconds. So what he did was, can I tell you? Or should I just say what he did and not tell you how he did it? In his studies, he got a glass tube, and he started watching the fuel, and he could see it really quickly go back to its natural state. What does the natural state mean? It means that the fuel went back to a liquid, and the air went back to air. What happens is hydrocarbons, which is gasoline, carbon. The carbon is the glue of the earth, and it holds everything together. We've talked about carbons in cast iron welding. You heat it up too much, you get rid of the carbon, it's no bueno. You ain't gonna weld a cast iron block. Everything on God's green earth has carbon. They do carbon, dating, carbon testing. Everything has carbon in it. In the Bible, I don't care if you believe in God or not, in the Bible it says you will revert back to your natural state. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You're gonna turn back to, back to carbon. You're going to turn back to dirt. Okay, so carbon is the glue of the earth. It holds everything together. Hydrocarbons, okay, glue of the earth, they stick together. So you atomize the fuel and make all these little fine droplets. Within a few milliseconds, the two droplets touch each other, become one droplet and a little bit bigger. It gets heavier, it falls. All these droplets start sticking together because it's a hydrocarbon. It's carbon is in there to glue them all together. So once you get 8, 9, 10, 12, all these little droplets of fuel stuck together, and then we have combustion, we're only burning the outer molecules that are on the outside. Because an oxygen molecule can stick to the outer ones, but the inside is pure just fuel inside. So we don't have full combustion. That's why our engines are only 30% efficient. 70% of the energy goes out the pipe. So you're not getting full combustion, not using all of those hydrocarbons to do work for you to push the piston down. So what Smokey found that within a millisecond or two, they revert that. He told GM, he told Ford, he told Chrysler, he had his idea of heating the fuel. This is major news here. I don't think I've ever, well, how does a hot vapor engine work? He found out that by heating the fuel and air, he could slow it down. It doesn't mean it didn't go back to its natural state, but he could slow it down from going back to its natural state within 1 or 2 milliseconds. If I can slow it down to 15 milliseconds, is that slow enough that it can get into the combustion chamber without turning back into fuel in the intake manifold? Yes. More efficient, boom, the hot vapor engine. Now you know the conception of what we're trying to do, what he was trying to do, what we're going to keep doing. We're doing a modern hot vapor engine, but that doesn't matter. We're going sidetrack. So, reverts back to his natural state. GM, Ford, and Chrysler. GM bought the hot vapor engine just to want to can it. Smokey bought it back. For Chrysler, the same thing. The John DeLorean's car had a hot vapor engine in it. The last one, the one before he got popped. So, but let's not pay Smokey for his idea because he bought it back because you're not going to use it. Part of the deal was you're gonna mass produce this, and if you're not, I want it back. He didn't want to just sell it for the money and then you're going to go put it in a safe somewhere. If you're not going to do something with it, I want it back. And he even sold it to Crane. They were going to do a Crane kit on the hot vapor kit. Like I said, GM, Ford, and Chrysler. So I'm not gonna pay Smokey, but I'm gonna listen to what he said. Okay, well heck, no, we don't need your contraption to slow it down, but we're gonna take what you said and we're gonna move the injectors from the throttle body to the intake manifold because he said, well, that wasn't fast enough. It got better fuel efficiency, better economy, but it still reverted back to its natural state. So then GM, okay, we're going to get closer. We're going to spray right in front of the intake valves. Okay? Then getting better, but still not fast enough. So instead of heating the fuel, they just moved the fuel closer to the combustion chamber. Now we have direct injection. We're just injecting the fuel right in next to the spark plug. Because Smokey said it reverts back to its natural state within a few milliseconds. So if I can let it come out right in front of the spark plug, I beat the system. I didn't have to pay Smokey, but I learned from what he was teaching me, but I don't have to use his contraption. I can just go, I'm smarter than the average bear. I'm gonna keep moving the fuel. Awesome. If you have a car with direct injection, a common tune-up now with a car with a direct injection is take it to the dealer and have them pull your engine apart, pull the intake manifold apart, and walnut blast the intake ports. Because the intake ports are so full of oil and crud and carbon in the ports that air can't flow through them. So now they have to actually close all the exhaust valves, close all the valves. Actually, it's the intake valves that get messed up. Close all the intake valves, walnut blast them to clean the ports. That's a tune-up now? Take my engine to the dealer and they pull the intake manifold off without that many miles? And the reason is there's no fuel in the manifold. So what's keeping it clean? You would think GM, Ford, and Chrysler thought, well, the manifold's going to be clean. There's nothing in it. Except that fuel moves. If you watch I'm sure I talked about it in the live streams. The pulse, 4 foot pulse, different cars, different things, but just think of it somewhere in that range. Pulse. So remember we talked about this. If it goes out the exhaust pipe, did you know that it comes all the way back in every time? And every time it goes further, the pulse keeps moving, but it goes back, goes back, and every time that pulse moves that way. So there's a YouTube video of a guy who took an intake manifold out of plexiglass, like a tunnel ram, so that you could see the pulse, and you will be surprised at how much of the combustion gases go back into the intake manifold and then back out. So what happens in a regular combustion is gases going back and forth. The intake manifold has hot exhaust combustion that goes back into the port, and there's nothing to clean it out. So since we're not cleaning out the ports, they get clogged. Why? Because we try to be smarter than Smokey and just you learn from him, but you don't have to clean intake ports. Toyota, Ford, there's probably more now. I think Toyota was on the first, but don't hold me to that. Started putting now upstream injectors. So we still direct inject into the combustion chamber because it's better, but they put another injector in the intake manifold to spray a little bit of fuel to keep the manifolds clean. So we gained all of this, and then we're going backwards to spraying some fuel back in the manifold to keep the intake clean. So there is direct injection, naturally aspirated, more than what you probably wanted. Also, now we're going to get back to the gasket. A lot of times we'll have a gasket made. A Comedic will make you any gasket that you want. If they don't have it already made, you send them the old gasket and they'll digitize it and they'll make you the gasket. Any thickness you want in an MLS, any thickness you want, and any gasket. So there's not going to be a problem. They may not have one, but they will make one if you'll send them a gasket that they can digitize. Now, do we want to talk quench that I hear?
Yes, that was a gasket issue, remember? The question was, let me go back to it.
And hey, Lewis.
It's from Dean. By the way, Lewis says it's supposed to get to 30 tonight in Florida, which is, as I was just going to tell Terry, who says it's going to be 7 in his town in Germany. Germans are a little better situated to handle 7 degrees than Floridians are situated to handle 30.
Wow, what's going to happen? Remember, did this happen? What's going to happen to all oranges? Oh, down here, oranges and citrus is going to go sky high. But right. It's not Lewis's fault. But
and that's
it's 30.
After the storm that they just had, which really did a number on the citrus crops. But back to our question.
Okay.
Dean's question was having a hard time speccing a head gasket. Going to go from OE single layer graphite coated composite to getting a custom MLS gasket. Any tips or formulas to make sure I get the proper squish?
Well, we work when you blueprint. You decide what that squinch is, and then you work back from that. You make sure everything happens to get that. If you're doing something existing, then you measure everything up and you get a gasket to fix or to get you where you want it to be. But sometimes you got to play with the gasket thickness because these are already machined. You're not decking. The block's already been decked. The piston's already in. Okay, well then I'm going to do my measurements and then I want to order a gasket to get that right. When we start from scratch, a lot of times we'll determine what gasket we want to run and then do it in reverse. So before we deck the block, you want to find the proper placement of the piston to the deck. And there is some, I don't want to say there's some controversy or no controversy on what that thickness should be. We took the compressed air engine probably tighter than I would have ever done. The only time that we would do something like that is if you're just trying to be the most efficient that you can possibly be. The tighter, the better. Stop it, people. But there is a point where you're going to cause damage. Something that a lot of people don't consider in tightening up the piston to cylinder head area is piston rock. So then you have, especially if you're using a forged piston, you have more clearance, a little more clearance, and that piston rock, you may do all your measurements stagnant, just sitting there on an engine stand, take all your measurements and do everything, but make sure you consider piston rock. So if you're getting your quench exactly where you want it, and you want to be bad to the bone, and you don't consider piston rock, then you're going to have piston knock, and that can actually take out some bearings. So there is a fine line, and like I said, tighter is better. I was amazed at what Smokey would do, but a 500-mile race could actually start causing carbon knock. You know, you got to figure. You go watch. I love watching the old videos. If you don't have his books, get his books. There's a lot of pictures in there. There's one of the books there, and he's sitting on the wall, the concrete wall in between, and I don't know where they're at, Daytona, wherever they're at, and he's got an acetylene torch, and he's got a glove on, and back then these were oil cans. The OGs out there have seen an oil can, so you know what I'm talking about. They had a little spigot that you pushed in the top. It actually put a hole in it, and you going somewhere else. That's when they were metal cans, and then they started getting into cardboard on the side, metal top and bottom. But these were actually oil cans. As a kid, I'd stack them by the window and make a nice display. But anyway, back then, you had to add oil during a race. I mean, to get more horsepower, you want less friction, you make everything extremely loose, and they used a lot of oil. So during a race, go watch some of the old videos. When they would pull into the pits, they would open the hood and add oil. That was the thing. The engine wasn't going to make the whole race without adding oil to it. Well, Smokey was one of the first to, everything he did was a package. You couldn't just say one thing that, that won a race. But he was one of the first to start speeding up pit stops. So if you're racing someone and the average pit stop is 5 minutes, 4 minutes, it was a long time back then. They came in, opened the hood, added oil. I mean, they're putting lug nuts on the old-fashioned way. So he started thinking, well, I'm going to heat the oil up so it pours faster. He's there with the torch as they're kind of a sign and wanting him to come in. They pop the hood and he's pouring in real hot oil that flows really fast. Boom, the hood's on and he's out the door. So he started to pioneer fast pit stops. So, and then it's like, you're cheating. There's no way your car runs faster than everybody else. If I can do a pit stop faster than the next guy, do I have to be faster than him? I can be just as fast, but if my pit stops are faster, and a lot of, now it's an art. A pit stop, if you watch any NASCAR racing, it's down to an art. It is down to an art. They can do 4 tires. They can add coolant. They don't have to open the hood. They're pressurized cooling systems now. And you know why they have a pressurized cooling system? Because of Smokey Unique. But okay, all right. So is that good? So I don't know what, I mean, a Cometic will make you any MLS gasket you want. So pick the quench you want. Production engines have a lot of space. One of the first, don't hold me to any facts, but it's pretty close. I don't know. You remember Ford, the Y block? Well, Ford flatheads were out. And the Y block actually came in. And for a time there, Ford produced both engines, and you could have a choice. There was a difference, so they didn't give away up the flathead Ford yet. This is the end of the flathead Ford, and they started doing the Y block. And there was a time there that they didn't do the Y block, and the flathead was gone. There was a time there that they didn't really know which platform they were going to stick with. So the Y block was very, very cutting edge. There were so many things in the Y block that have been kept for a lot of other engines. One of the things is called a Y block. Why is it a Y block? It's because the oil pan bottom, the side of the block, actually went down further to give stability to the bottom of the block. When before they were actually almost like a V, but they went down straight and back up. So what Ford did is they added more cast iron to the bottom to the mains, make them more stable. The oil pan was a little shorter, and it was more cast iron. But that was one of the things on the Ford Y block that was actually pretty cool. There's some old videos in black and white when they debuted this engine, and one of the things about the Y block that was very, very cutting edge was the quench. Exactly what you're talking about right now. So do y'all know what the quench is? I'm not talking about a drink, but if you want to know what the quench is, then I'll tell you what, or maybe I'm talking too much. Henry, you really like the L head. Yes. There's just.
By the way, say hi to Brian. Brian made it in. We haven't seen. Brian is the reason we say peace and assembly grease, folks.
Yes. So hi Brian. You haven't been in a while. We missed you.
And since he's here, and I put it in the chat, but let me just go ahead and remind everybody that on Wednesday the 21st at 5 p.m. the gang's gonna get back together again. We're gonna have a winter solstice live stream. Danny and Faye, Shop Mom in the background, trying to keep them in line. Y'all make it a point to join us.
Yes, and to this day we still end every live stream. Faye still ends every live stream with peace and assembly grease, and that is why.
One of the best letters we ever got.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So done, I guess, unless we want to talk about quench. I don't know. But then on this question, I don't know if anybody knows what I'm even talking about the quench. And real quickly, the combustion chamber, the piston goes up. We just thought we needed a combustion chamber, and it made fuel combustion, pressure, heat, fuel, boom, bang. But to get better fuel efficiency and more an efficient engine, make more power, what we're trying to do, and this is what we're still trying to do, the same thing, is we're trying to mix the air and oxygen and hydrocarbons, air and gas together very well so that it would get it ready to combust. Right? So we want to get it ready. We want to get it primed. We want to get it just there. So all it needs is the spark and it's go time. Okay, so what did we talk about earlier? The Venturi airspeed really fast to mix up the air and the fuel. Okay, it gets into the combustion chamber. It was this long of intake manifold. By then it's already reverting back to its natural state. How can we remix it just before combustion? Make a combustion chamber with a flat spot in it, and as the piston comes up, it has a combustion chamber over here. And now you're gonna know why there's a flat spot on part of the combustion chamber and a combustion chamber over here in the head. And this is flat. As the piston goes up, any fuel that's right here, piston going up, has to squirt out of that area. Because the piston's coming up and there's a flat spot on the head. It's gonna get squirt and squished out that area into the combustion chamber. Well, the tighter we can get that quench, the tighter we can get it, it's gonna accelerate the speed. If I put my hand up, it gets brighter, it gets darker. Nelson, is that you? Anyway, it's gonna accelerate the speed, the quench, it's gonna accelerate it, and it's gonna mix that air and fuel in the combustion chamber just before combustion. So it's very important for efficiency. For efficiency, think about it. If we can make it 1,000 clearance, that's it. All the air and the fuel that's there gets shot out at high speed, super high speed, into the combustion chamber, mixing all the air and the fuel, maybe not all, a lot of the air and fuel, and better combustion. That was the Y block. All right.
So there's a couple of other questions. Lewis Brooks wants to know about the Hemi chamber, but I'm not sure how we, Shea Ribster is, I'm guessing how we say this moniker. The point being, thanks for the great content, Danny. Quick question about balancing. I have a set of pistons with a 0.66 gram variation, so very close. How important is the weight of each piston between banks, left and right?
If you're doing balancing at home and you got it out of scale, and obviously your scale can get pretty good, a lot of times I'll juggle. I'll juggle the pistons, around. So don't put two light pistons on the same crank journal. Go ahead and look for the other journal that's the opposite of it. And if you got a gram, put a gram over there and a gram over here. Let them counterbalance each other. When you're in that 0.66 is not even a gram. I had a conversation more than once, more than several times with crank manufacturers. There's one specifically that sells these stroker cranks, and I'm gonna give you some tips on buying a crank with the B or not the B at the end. So you're gonna want to try to save some money. I'm not looking right at you. You know what I'm talking about.
And it's
So
actually BI.
it's a BI at the end. Well, that's balance internal. It can be balance internal or balance external. So BI is balance internal. B is just balance. So when I buy the kit, I can get it balanced or not balanced. So a lot of times it's like, well, no, I'm not going to pay them to balance it. I'm going to have my machine shop balance it. Okay. So what happens is the manufacturers, they have 100 connecting rods. They're weighing them all and they're putting them in sets of 8. Unless you're doing a Miata sets of 4, but you get what I'm doing. They're putting them in sets of 8. When they get through with all of these rods and they got them in sets of 8 that are pretty close to start with, you're going to have a couple of stragglers there. You're going to have some that are just, man, this rod was super light. This one was super heavy. I don't have a match set with these. Put them in this pile over here. They're good rods, but they're in a disc pile. Because anything that they can make in sets of 8 helps out their balancing guy, right? They're already pretty close. So that's going to go over to the balancing guy. So when you order a non-balanced assembly, they go, you don't want it balanced because you're going to balance it yourself. They're going to send you everything that no one wants to use. They're going to send you things that they can't put together in a set. Don't do it. Your machine is going to end up charging you $800 or $900 to balance your engine because of all the hours that it took. I've gotten sets of rods, oh, here, I wanted this thing balanced. Start weighing all the rods. You'll have 5, 6, 8 grams lighter on one. Now I got to take 8 grams off of all the light ends on. They don't even send you any two that are even close together. And how you balance is you take the lightest part and you make them all that weight. So by the time your connecting rod, big end, you took out 6 grams off of it, you can see the piston pin. I mean, there's nothing left on there. Well, now it's balanced. So by the time you take off so much on the big end of the rod, by the time you take off so much on these pistons, by the time you take off, you've whittled away a week of your life, spent so much time on the Bridgeport, you spent so much time, and now I have a set, and they're so freaking light, when you put it on the crankshaft, you gotta drill the tar out of it. Or sometimes you gotta add so much Mallory weight because the weights are just so far off. So, tip of the day, order a balanced set and then have it balanced. And you're thinking, why do I buy a balanced set and then have it balanced? I've had phone calls with manufacturers and I said, man, this is within 4 grams. I ordered a balanced set. He goes, yeah, that's a balanced set. It's within 4 grams. Industry standard, 4 grams, balanced set. And I'm like, the same thing. But I ordered a balanced set. It should be a little closer than that. I mean, I get it, within 4 grams. And this is what he tells me. He says, how heavy is the oil? We use 4 grams as our oil weight. Okay? That's old school because you got to modify it if you're using a lighter synthetic oil. But in general, a race motor 2050, let's just say, we use 4 grams. A lot of shops will use 2 grams. But the old school guys, especially in the older, thicker oils, will use a 4 gram as our. I'll have to bring a balance sheet and just say how you come up with the bob weight. I don't know who this guy Bob was, but he came up with a way to get a bob weight that we can add to the crank. So then we're using 4 grams as oil. Like I said, I've seen some high dollar stuff that comes perfectly balanced and stuff. And if it's going to be in synthetic oils, a 1030 oil or some lightweight oils, we don't want to use 4 grams. We want to use 2 grams. So he tells me, he goes, how do you know how much? Tell me how much oil is on a rod. I go, no, we use 4. He goes, yeah, exactly. You don't know. You don't know. So you're getting too picky. You're getting too picky. How do you know how much oil gets splashed on the rods and how much oil gets splashed on the pistons? I said, I don't know. And he goes, yes, that's what I'm telling you. So 4 grams is good enough. I said, no. If I don't know how much oil is being splashed on my parts, I'm going to balance that sucker to within perfect. That way, when 4 grams get splashed on her, 3 grams, 4 grams, that's right. I have no control over oil splash. So I'm going to make it as perfectly balanced as I can. So oil splash is still going to be a perfectly balanced motor. Or it's good. The way I say also, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to college. I don't know. But I'm going to bet everything inside of my crankcase gets splashed the same. I don't think one connecting rod was like, hey, I got an umbrella. I'm not getting any of that oil. No. I got a feeling, I don't know, that the crankshaft is spreading all over the darn place and everything gets oil on it. So I got a feeling that it's going to be universal. I got a feeling that the oil that's splashed in the crankcase is pretty much going to be, if it added 1 gram to a rod, it added it to all of them. It added a gram to the piston, it added it to all of them. So balance your stuff as close as you can so that when you have no control over oil splash, you're still within balance. If I started out at 4 grams and then you're adding stuff that you have no control over, you could be off a lot. So anyway, that's pretty close. Juggle your stuff around before you touch the die grinder or any kind of a file or whatever. You start to remove some weight, start off by balancing your stuff together. Take some time, get all your pistons. I get all my pins. I get all my rods. I get all the big end, the light end. I get the rings. I get the bearings. I get everything. And if I can juggle some things around, it depends on the build tune. An example, I have a set of Mall high dollar pistons. I got a set of pistons that are $1,000. They're pretty close. Well, if I can juggle, if I'm talking about a 0.5 gram, I'm doing a set right now, a 383 stroker. It's balanced, right? But I was a little off on 2 pistons. I didn't want to whittle the other 6 pistons for this 0.5 gram. And I already worked on the rods. I already worked on everything else. When I was doing my rods, I said, you know what? Stop. I got 2 that I know are a 0.5 gram heavy. I don't want to whittle on all the rest of them. Hold on. I take my rods and I start measuring my rods. Well, they're all over the place. It's a set of Eagle rods, but they're a little over the place. As I balance the light end on the rod, the small end, not the rotating, but the reciprocating end of the connecting rod, I left 2 rods with that 0.5 gram. Okay, and actually these were too heavy, too light. So see, that 0.5 gram, I have a star on my rod, I have a star on that piston. It's balanced. You get them on the scale, and if your scale doesn't go down to the 0.5 gram, it's perfectly balanced. But I know because I put a star on it that I'm actually a 0.5 gram. And I got those 2 rods. If somebody were to take this apart, mix everything up, throw them all together, it ain't gonna make any difference at the 0.5 gram. But this thing is perfect. I took Shop Mom into the balance room yesterday and I said, check this thing out. We spun this dude up and man, it is fine. So a lot of times what you can do at home is you can juggle. Before you even take out a file or a die grinder, start taking weight off, see if you can juggle something around. Old school stuff, flatheads, early model stuff, if you buy a lot of old pistons, you better weigh every piston pin. Don't do like everybody else, weigh 1 pin and that's it. A lot of shops do quick balance. They'll weigh 1 pin and write it down and that's it. And just get you those numbers and boom, out the door, okay? All, and I shouldn't say the word all, you know me, a lot of the late model quality stuff, I can no longer find a 0.5 gram difference in the pins. And it's good, but I would a lot of times juggle the piston pins. Now that pin has to stay in that piston. It has to stay in that piston, which is going to anyway. But older school stuff that has the variances, use it to your advantage. Juggle. So do the juggle trick on it. Also, another tip on balancing. If you got to remove a gram or 2, don't take it off of the piston if you don't need to. You know what a gram of aluminum looks like as opposed to a gram of steel? No, probably not knowing. The other day, Faye was here and we made a joke about, what's a gram amongst friends? Those are fighting words. Back in the day, we're you know, I said, you didn't watch Scarface, you know. So if the pin is steel and the piston is aluminum, if I want to take 1 gram, I'm going to have a pile of aluminum on my table. If I want to take 1 gram of the piston pin, which is steel, I'm going to have a little bitty pile because steel weighs more than aluminum. Okay, so what I like to do is I bore out the inside of the pin. I put a cone, and the piston pin is hollow on the inside. I wouldn't do this on a boosted motor because we actually get boosted pins, which are almost solid. But you want to go ahead and take out metal from the inside of the piston pin. If it's a pressed pin, means it doesn't have C-clips on either side, it's pressed in the rod, you can cut the end of the pin. You can put it on your valve grinder, you can cut the end of the pin, shorten it a little bit. I'm talking about, 5,000, 10,000, the naked eye will never see it. You're not going to affect anything, but take it out of the pin. If you have C-clips, don't cut the side of your pins. You will beat the C-clips out. Ask Smokey, I got some pistons right there. So then what you do is go the inside of the pin. So hone the inside of the pin, put a 45-degree chamfer at the end. That's perfectly fine, but you're not shortening the pin in any way, shape, or form. So it's much easier. The last set, that big block Chevy that we ran, the last one that we ran, if y'all have seen it or not, has a set of nice mall pistons, and I wanted to get that 1/2 gram. I wanted to get them perfect. So what I did is I took off metal from the pin. And there's actually some YouTube videos that I've made on little tips of balancing. All right. Too much work, too much info?
Not too much info, but we're going to have to wrap it up before too long. Hey, Charles is here.
Charles Whitman is here. I'll drink to that. Actually,
he says that you always have the camera angle right since I don't catch the live. Hey, Charles, we're going to do a live one next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I apologize, but I know there's a big time difference for you European folks.
Yes, so this next coming Wednesday, Faye's back in. We're going old school. It's at 5 o'clock. It's going to be a Christmas cheer, festive. We'll have hats on and all that good stuff. But that is going to be this Wednesday, the shortest day of the year. After that, the days get longer again.
It's the winter solstice.
It's the winter solstice. So that's happening this coming Wednesday. So Charles, don't miss it. If you can set your alarm clock, wake up. I know it's a different time, but we have missed you. He's always the one that got the camera angle just right. And even when you're not here, we always ask, is the camera angle right? And
because we always think of Charles.
Yes.
We do think of Charles. Now, Wade does make a comment, kind of like a pound of lead versus a pound of feathers. Yeah, we're not talking dimensions when we discuss those things, because you would have a big pile of feathers. And Shea Ribster, going back to the balance question, says they started at a 1.28 gram difference. 0.66 is after swapping pins around. I found that I can match pistons to each journal to get each of them from 1292 to 1292.12. So awesome stuff.
You're doing awesome, and I guess you're doing this balancing at home just with skills. I mean, I don't know. I bought my Stuart Warner balancer. Can anybody guess where I bought my Stuart Warner balancer?
Does it start with an E and end with a Y?
Yes. So came off of eBay. So Lewis, and that's the answer. I made a phone call, and we're gonna find out. I'll let you know on Monday on your connecting rods. Thanks for coming in. Okay, so what are we? So anyway, eBay's a perfect place to buy component. To me, I suggest this in a lot of my videos. A lot of times you join a car club. You get you 2 or 3 guys, make your own car club that is like-minded in the same thing. If you're do flatheads, you all do flatheads. If you're a Miata group, you all run together. So a lot of times you can buy some tools that are specific for, let's say, a Miata cam holding tool. Well, y'all can pitch in and I'll buy it, have it in the clubhouse, and then everybody can use these tools. So one of the things that I do encourage small clubs, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, the Flathead Club here, they're huge. Man, start setting this stuff up in your clubhouse. And it encourages people to join your club, pay a due, but we got our own tools. Balancing is something that you can do yourself. You can't spin the crank, but a lot of shops will give you a discount. The hardest thing is getting all of the subcomponents balanced, writing all those numbers down, finding out your bob weight, and then spinning the crank. Spinning the crank is one of the fun things. You put it on there, you still got to either remove or add weight to the crankshaft, but a lot of shops will give you a discount, at least half off, if you take them a crankshaft with a balance sheet. All they got to do is look at that balance sheet. They need a bob weight. 1,800, 2,200 is a bob weight. Give them that with the crankshaft, and all they got to do is set up their bob weights, put them on the crank, and spin it. It takes a lot of time to get all the subcomponents done. Plus, if you're picky like me, I'd rather just give you the bob weight, because I'm going to get real picky, because they're only going to get within a couple of grams. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's just the way it is. Unless you're building an Indy motor and they're doing it themselves. They're not sending it out. So a lot of times you will get a discount. Call around some shops. They will love to have you in because it's a lot quicker for them. Before I had my balance machine, I had the scales, I had all of the equipment, just not the machine to spin it. We have a machine at my mom's shop. So y'all probably all know for San Antonio, my mom has one of the biggest shops in town. Not the biggest, but it's been around for a long time, and have all of the equipment. So what I would do is do everything, because I'm extremely picky, and just have them spin the crank. So John Hamilton, one of the renowned balancers, that's who I learned how to balance from. So I would just give him the bob weight. He would spin the crank for me, a lot cheaper and a lot better job, because I knew all the other components were right on the money. Okay.
Scott made it in. Scott Van Diver is here.
Scott made it before.
Scott made it. I'm just teasing him because he says better late than never. And of course,
you
the
said
rejoinder to that is better never late. Because I'm one for rejoinders. And since he was not in when I said it just a little bit ago, at risk of sounding repetitive, Scott, Danny, and Faye and I will be here Wednesday the 21st at 5 p.m. for a winter solstice / Solis Navidad live stream. If you've got nothing else going on, stop
Don't
by.
be late on Wednesday. Now you might have to be at work or something. You can always watch it after the fact. But yes, Scott's another OG, been here. Charles been here. There's a lot of y'all have been here for the long haul. Terry, you've been here for actually been here since for the long haul. So
actually, Terry was here before you. Ha ha ha.
Terry was here before me. Yes, in the family. I guess that's what she's referring to.
That is what I am referring to.
That's what she's referring to. Okay, so
okay, so we've been at this for a little bit better than an hour. I want to again remind everybody about our friend Nelson's passing.
Mm-hmm.
Ask you to go and watch his video. It's not his, somebody else put it up. It's a compilation of one song. It's called In Every Life. But when you do the search on YouTube, put In Every Life and then add Blanco Pickers, Blanco. And I really appreciate it if you listen, and if you feel so moved, make a comment. I think that would mean the world to the folks that see that, and it would mean a lot to me.
And it when you hear his voice, his just if it doesn't put a smile on your face. Somebody, one of in Blanco, if you're from around here or not, they do every Friday, right about this time. It's about to start. I think 5 o'clock it starts, and they do live music out. It started at the square, now it's at the park. Everybody's invited.
It's a songwriter
Bring your
circle.
guitar, bring your whatever. Just bring a lawn chair, bring something to drink, and people just just come out from everywhere to sing, to play music, to listen. Really cool. So Nelson started this, and a couple of other guys too. From, and I don't want to embarrass some people that are there, but you'd be surprised at the people that play there.
The level of talent.
The level of talent. In fact, the one playing right next to Nelson, Dan, you'll have to go. You probably heard of the Breakfast Club. So anyway, we're gonna end it. I see on my phone that's low battery, and I hope it's still going. All right, it just, maybe I froze for a second.
Yeah, you did.
I did. It was low battery, so it's time. It is time to say peace and assembly grease, everybody. Remember, go look up Nelson Bro, the Blanco Pickers, and what's the name of the video?
It's In Every Life.
In Every Life.
And I just put it in the text,
Oh.
in the chat, so you can refer to it there. And peace and assembly grease, everybody, and Solis Navidad.
That's it. So Solista Navidad, and she put it right there. I see it in Every Life. Blanco Pickers. Leave them a comment. Like I said, Liz would love to just
To know that Nelson's
just-
still touching people.
yes, and
It's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful sentiment.
and as long as someone you love is in your heart, they're always still there. Chief, my uncle is with me every day. So, okay, peace and assembly grease, everybody. Thank you. We'll see you Wednesday. Don't forget Wednesday. And Lawnmower said about putting in a notification. I'm going to figure out how to do that. I'm going to ask my buddy Faye to help me out to put in a notification so that y'all will be notified. Peace and assembly grease, and we'll see you Wednesday.